guys, I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Stephanie.
And we're Sisters of the South. Coming to you with another episode today. Thanks for joining us. First, we want to give a shout out to SewFly.
This is how.
Thanks to SewFly for all of our merchandise. That's beautiful, beautiful work. We're very proud to show it off. Anyway, we have a story for you today that we just feel like we need to put out there, get her name out, and everything that's happening with her. And with that being said, I'll just let Stephanie get started.
Yeah, we wanted to speak on a story that's been hitting the media, the internet, social medias, about Mica Miller. And it's a really hard story to digest. Some of the things that have come out are really hard to hear. Today we're going to talk about some disturbing subjects like actual and physical abuse and suicide. So this is a trigger warning for anyone who is sensitive to these subjects. We just wanted to make you aware that there's quite a bit going on in her story. It's never fun to speak about these subjects, but it is very important that it's discussed. So maybe we can see some warning signs, what that kind of looks like maybe. So if there's anyone that needs any help, may be aware of some of those signs. There's so many people in the world who suffer from all kinds of abuse, and I am a total advocate in speaking the truth and shedding the light with no shame in those violent situations. The person who is having to go through that should never have shame. It's the actual perpetrator that should feel the shame. And as a society should take that shame off of the victims. And so that's what we want to do here today. At this point, there's been so much out there that's been said on this case, and we're going to just pretty much stick with the facts as they are. There's a lot of rumors. There's a lot of people involved. And so we just want to bring the story, kind of break it down and bring it to you. And at the end of the story, we will kind of let you know what we think and kind of break it down. But until then, we're just going to, again, stick with the facts. So we're going to speak today about Mica Miller. She was from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Her birth date was March 7th, 1994, and she was born in Wichita, Kansas. Her date of death was April 27th, 2024. She was 30 years old. Mica was born to Michael Francis and Angelita Ramirez. She has one brother and four sisters. She was married to John Paul Miller. He is 44 years old. They married on December 31st, 2017. On Saturday, April 27th, 2024, at approximately 2:54 p.m., a 911 call was placed by Mica Miller. She stated that she was going to unalive herself, and she wanted to confirm that they could locate her body so her family could be informed. Mica was found dead at Lumber River State Park in Robeson County, North Carolina. It is said that she died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head at the Lumberton River State Park in Robeson County, North Carolina. There was a man fishing in his boat on the day Mica's death occurred. He heard crying and then a gunshot, and then the crying stopped. That's when he felt something bad had happened. And I can't even imagine for a moment just being out there on a peaceful day and hearing cries, and he probably wasn't sure where they were coming from, and then a gunshot. That would be very alarming. The fisherman went towards the bank where he heard the crying. He found Mica's belongings, which included a Bible, her driver's license, and $5 in what looked like a fanny pack. He did not, however, find her body. He did speak with the police and was not the only one to contact the police. The fisherman wants to remain anonymous and clear his name regarding accusations hurled at him online. So he's been facing a lot of judgment, which honestly, stop that, people. Stop accusing people of things that are not true. If we don't have facts, we don't need to be the judge and jury of someone who's just trying to help. Thank God that he made that phone call.
Well, yeah, he just happened to be there.
Yeah, he happened to be there and he heard her cries. Unfortunately, he's got to live with that for the rest of his life. But honestly, at least someone was there to hear her last cries. Her husband, John Paul Miller, was a pastor of Solid Rock Church in Market Common in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Mica served as the church's creative director and was known as the church's first lady. John Paul was served with divorce papers just 2 days before his wife's body was found in Robeson County. The following day after Mica's death, John Paul Miller preached a full sermon, announced that there would be no invitational. He then asked the congregation to rise from their seats and announced Mica's death. He stated the 30-year-old had taken her own life after struggling with mental illness. He told them that there would be a memorial service the following week honoring Mica. The pastor asked the congregation not to discuss her death inside the church, then proceeded to ask them to leave quietly. And I cannot even imagine sitting in a church. Your minister just did a full sermon, and I've been through many. You and I both. We have been churchgoers, and you're feeling good. You heard the word of God. Maybe the Holy Spirit moved, and then you're asked to stand. And instead of an invitational, which means that they usually lead in prayer and song, and anybody that wants to come up front to profess their faith to Christ or receive prayer, ask for Jesus in their heart, or maybe even to be baptized. That's what an invitational is, which to me is very, very important. He announces Mica's death.
Because you would expect him to not even be there.
Absolutely.
I mean, why is he there if his wife has just been found dead?
Yeah. Why is he there? Or maybe be there and have someone speak on his behalf. You would think he would ask for prayer.
Yeah.
You would think.
I think he would have said, okay, I'm calling in sick today. You know what I mean?
I've got things I need to take care of.
Yeah, I mean, why would that be the first thought, is to go there? Somebody could have taken care of that for him.
But many, many times, and I've watched him on video and a lot of his sermons, which really is hard for me. Okay, I just need to know. The congregation that sat through his sermons, why did you sit through these sermons with him talking about his wife in the manner that he did? I would get up and leave. Speaking about her mental health, her health in general, wanting a hot wife, just so many things that he would just hurl at his congregation, and people sat there and absorbed that in God's house.
Well, and that's one of the reasons he was there that morning, right? Oh, I need to be seen.
Yeah, I need to be seen.
I always need to be seen and heard.
He was actually talking about how handsome, tall and handsome and charismatic he was prior to going into speaking about her death. This man's not quite right, okay? He's a couple of French fries short of a Happy Meal, okay? And he is a narcissist to the nth degree. Mica's family had a memorial service for her the same day as John Paul at a different location, and good for y'all. Y'all did not need to be amongst that toxic business environment. I mean, this man is horrendous. He should have honored her while she was alive, not wait until she had passed. So,
well, not just that, is they were being, they were in the middle of a divorce.
Yeah.
So out of respect, and
Correct.
He had no respect for her, or he would not have spoken about her the way that he spoke.
Right.
He should have backed down from any of that and let her family take care of it.
He should have stepped away with some dignity. He'd already done his damage, but he wanted to hurl text messaging out to her family after the fact and blame them for it. But we all know now, with the stories that are coming out and factual stories of text messaging, where her state of mind was. And to be honest with you, you become sick with a person like him if you stay in it long enough, because it's a survival technique that survivors will absorb just to get through the moment. Mica's family and friends don't believe for 1 second that she did this without being pushed to the brink, or maybe he possibly staged her death. In honor of Mica's life, I did some research and found nothing but great validation and love spoken about her. She is described as being a beacon of positivity and lit up a room with her confidence, joy, and presence. She had a radiant personality and a beautiful voice. It is also said that she made an impact on many lives of those who crossed her path. Mike also led the women's ministry and worship team at the Solid Rock Ministry. And I got to see some videos of her singing, and she seemed in her element and extremely happy when she was up there praising and worshiping. And that shows a person's spirit.
Well, yeah, you could tell she loved God with her whole heart.
Yeah, and so she probably felt free when she was doing that, and it shows. It shows through her beautiful voice in praise and worship, and that touched me quite a bit, to say the least. Mica and her family began attending worship services at Solid Rock Ministry in 2010 when she was just 14 years old. John Paul and his wife Allie were the pastors of Solid Rock Ministries at the time. The two have 4 children together, and that would be John Paul's first wife and him. They have 4 children together. Mica and John Paul did not have any children. Within a few years, John Paul officiated the wedding of Mica and his good friend Jeremy Dees, who he sometimes referred to as his right-hand man. In 2015, it became public knowledge that Mica and JP were having an affair, and JP is John Paul, and so I will be referring to him at times in this story as JP. So in 2015, it became public knowledge that Mica and JP were having an affair. At this time, Mica was serving in the role of secretary to John Paul and as a babysitter for his children. The following year, on September 14th, 2016, both couples, JP and Allie Miller, and Jeremy and Mica Dees, filed for divorce in Horry County. JP and Mica married a little over a year later on December 31st, 2017. So we've talked quite a bit about John Paul Miller. We know that he's a pastor at Solid Rock. But who is this man? Like, truly, to the core, who is this man? You instantly think, man, when you start listening to it, she had some mental health issues, and you kind of want to feel sorry for him a little bit, because that can be hard when you are married to someone who has mental health issues and concerns, because you're constantly worried, and it can be stressful. But I wanted to dig into who this pastor is. And John Paul Miller is known in the Myrtle Beach community as the pastor of Solid Rock Ministries, which operates a church and school in the Market Common. Pastor John Paul Miller spent his teenage years playing the piano in churches as well as nightclubs. He thought, quote, church was for fake people who were one way in public and another way behind closed doors. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, JP, you are...
Way to go, proving yourself right on that one.
Way to go. I mean, what in the heck? He said that out loud. He said, and I mean, if he believes in the Bible, if he believes in what the Word of God says, it says what's in darkness will come to light. Hello, JP, wake up. I mean, what in the... I can't with this guy. I just can't. One day in his mid-20s, he gave his life to Jesus Christ. In 2006, John Paul stepped out in faith and started his first church, Solid Rock Ministries, in the Socrates Library. His first sermon was 6 minutes long because he only knew one scripture. Obviously, he did not know the scripture, what's in darkness will come to light, but I'm sure he's learned that since then. His first congregation was his family, a few friends, and several former drug-related acquaintances. Pastor John Paul has been involved in the music department of churches all across the Grand Strand area before starting his new church, where he was pastor since 2016. Church officials released him from his ministerial duties last week and notified church members in an email on Sunday. So I will give his congregations props to this. They finally got sick of his mess and kicked him out. Man, he had so many sermons that he should have been kicked off the pulpit the first 5 minutes. I mean,
he should have never been able to be a pastor to begin with.
I'm happy y'all finally got it together. Yeah, but he should have never. That should have never even been allowed. Or people should have just stopped going and listening to his vile crap. I mean, you're a man of God and you're going to hurl trash out to the world and then call it the word of God
Yeah,
and
but
call
you're
it your
talking
testimony.
about people that are seeking something and they find him who might have been charismatic and charming or whatever he wants to call
with
himself.
No doubt, yeah.
But I mean, he brought people in and they're seeking things, you know,
Yeah.
as churchgoers, or they're searching for something. So they get to him and some of them don't know any better. I hate to say that, but some of them don't know any better.
But most people know trash talking when they hear it.
But the world is full of that, right? So maybe they think that's...
Well, I guess if you've never been to church before,
maybe you're seeking for something and he's charming and charismatic. You're like, hey, I found a great church.
Yeah.
You know, great praise and worship music.
Yeah, true. Well, I've got to read something really quick that I found very interesting before we get into JP's history, before he became a pastor. But I ran into... It's actually for the music team. It's rules for the music team, and I guess this was for 2020. In order to be a part of their music team, you had to follow certain rules. And everybody that knows me personally knows I have sang in churches around Houston. I was part of a choir in ministry. I sang solo. Loved praise and worship. Still love praise and worship. But I was never given a rule book on how I needed to live my life if I was going to sing out or even sing solo or sing in the choir, which I understand. But if you're up there doing that, you already know your moral compass is already typically set to that standard. Giving someone a piece of paper, look, we have the Bible. We don't need your lousy piece of paper giving us rules, okay? The Bible tells us how to live our life.
Does it say who wrote the rules?
It does.
Or if there's like a committee?
It doesn't say, and I'm sure there's a committee.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a committee. But it goes on, and I'll read it real quick. It says, to join any group on earth, there are different standards and expectations. To be a substitute teacher, a person only needs a high school diploma. To teach a full-time position, you must have a college degree. To fly an airplane, a person must be able to see. To work as a bank teller, one must be able to count mathematically. To attend Solid Rock, a person must only be willing to keep peace and prevent strife. The way they live and what they do outside of Sunday morning service is between them and God. Then it goes on to say, in order to be a member of Solid Rock, a person must be willing to serve, give, respect, and forgive when it comes to our Solid Rock family. How a member of Solid Rock treats people outside of Solid Rock is between them and God. In order to be a short group facilitator or leader at Solid Rock, we ask that they live a life that is pleasing to Jesus, especially on social media and at the workplace. We do not allow people living in sin or gossips, etc., to lead our short groups or sing on our worship team.
So, now, in other words, John Paul Miller did not help write this.
He should have stepped down because he was gossiping about his own wife on the pulpit. No, I'm sure that he's so self-righteous that...
Cheating on his wife.
Yes. I can't with this guy. I mean,
that's everything he's...
Speaking about her medical history and putting her down and talking about other women wanting a hot, godly wife. I mean, this dude. So then it says, with each line of affiliation, you have to add greater accountability. So in other words, if you sing in the choir, there's a set of rules. But if you actually sing solo, then it's added more responsibility, so on and so forth. It says, in order to be a part of our choir, we ask that a member of Solid Rock attend choir practice on Sunday morning. It goes into what times you're supposed to be there. So then it says, one of the rules, must be able to sing well and sing harmony, have godly continuance on stage, memorizing songs, and arrive on time, if not early, for every practice. Now, my Bible says, sing in a joyful noise.
Yes.
Okay?
And I do have a joyful noise.
And I have a joyful noise when I'm singing. Some days it's better than others. But what if you sound like a broken bugle horn or something? God's still gonna... It's
about your heart, not about your voice.
God. Listen, I've heard some
We're not trying out
buglers
for
in the choir were praising God, and I was
That's
not
all that
going to
mattered.
judge. It did not matter to me, and a lot of people can't harmonize. I don't know if a lot of you out there do a lot of singing, but harmonizing can be one of the most difficult things to do. But you got to know how to harmonize to be in his. I'd like to know how many people were in his praise and worship group. I wonder who did the judging. Like, did you have to stand there and you sing and they tell you, "No, you suck," or "Oh, no, that's great"? And that would be awkward. That'd be like being in junior high and high school all over again, right? With a bunch of adults, a bunch of judgy ass adults. I'd just be like, "No, that's okay. I'll go down to the local bar." Hey, JP, which bar did you sing at? Yeah, can you give me a reference? I'm just going to go down there and sing. I mean, what the heck? Anyway.
Everyone sounds good there too.
Yeah. Well, after a couple of beers, everybody sounds good.
Same.
So you must be, so you must be a faithful tither and server of solid rock. So he's just basically telling you, hey, you want to sing and praise and worship and lead our ministry, then yeah, you better start tithing, and you better tithe good. Okay, not if you want to do 11% instead of 10%, we're all for that. But don't be coming in here giving me no 9%. Okay, you can't sing, you're out. I mean, that right there would instantly turn me off to what is their agenda.
I don't know if I would have even gotten that far. I think him just opening his mouth would have.
Well, yeah, he's very arrogant. So number 4, because I'm skipping some, must live a pure life, sexually, drug-related, refrain from getting drunk, etc. Okay, which again, in the Christian faith, we have the Bible, 10 Commandments. There is rules that are followed, and pretty much everybody is aware of that. But now John Paul has to tell us that. I don't know if he was trying to remind himself of this, or if he was just trying to judge everybody else so they couldn't judge him. It was just kind of like a smoke and mirrors for him. So yeah, he and we definitely know he was not pure sexually. He had a girlfriend while he was married to Mica. So
his first wife.
Yes.
He was cheating with Mica.
Yeah. So that I just found that a little tidbit of information interesting. That
we're not completely condemning him for the things that he's doing. It's just do as I say, not as I do, and I'm going to tell you what you should do, even though I'm doing the complete opposite.
Right. He would lay judgment on people while he's out there doing the exact same thing he's telling you not to do, and that is very hypocritical, and it's really hard for people to take that mess. I mean, it really is. And so the last thing you want to do when you go to church is be judged. I mean, we all know that we're going to be judged one day. The last thing we need is humans to judge us. And so I that's not the place for that to happen. So, but prior to J.P. Miller's ministry, he was headed down a dark and dangerous road. On April 13th, 2003, John Paul Miller was found guilty of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and knowingly causing property damage in excess of $300. 2 years later, on February 28, 2005, JP was charged with domestic assault, battery, and bodily harm. So at this point, it's obvious that J.P. Miller seeks refuge in the ministry and begins a journey which ultimately takes him down the path of reviving a church in 2016, just 11 years later. And let's be honest, a lot can happen in 11 years. And that's a decade plus 1 year. And if you even think about that in your own life, and that's a lot of good that you can do, or that's a lot of destruction that you can do. A lot. That's a lot of days, a lot of relationships, and a lot of things that can happen. And within this 11 years, JP was married to his first wife, had children, had an affair with Mica, got a divorce, had a mental breakdown. There's a video that's been going out, and I really think it's kind of cruel that someone recorded this and put it out of him having a breakdown. I don't know if he was coming off of drugs. I'm not sure what it was, but it does give you an idea of what his state of mind is. Then he married Mica and sexually defiled and abused her with homeless people and sex workers, preached outlandish sermons, posted nude photos online, wrote apology letters, wrote threatening letters, etc., etc. We could just go on and on and on about this guy. Just mass destruction in the name of God, which I find repulsive, honestly. I mean, if you're going to do that kind of destruction, just step down from the pulpit and go live it as a normal person, and don't proclaim the word of God and that you're a Christian if you're gonna live your life like that. I just don't understand that. That's almost scary. I'm surprised he hadn't been struck down by lightning.
Well, I think it's about power, right? So maybe he couldn't find it anywhere else, so he decided to create a place that he could be in power.
It's almost like he was trying to start a cult. It's strange. It's almost like he was trying to have a little small cult calling just to feed his ego. Miller claims he saw a woman resembling his late wife at a mall and shouted, "Mica!" only to find out that it was one of her sisters. "I thought I raised her from the dead. I can't wait to see her again one day," he said. And this is what he had claimed during his memorial service for Mica. Mica had warned her sister, "If I end up with a bullet in my head, it was JP." This is just very eerie to me, to say the least. Imagine the conversations that took place between her and JP behind closed doors. Mica was begging for help. She knew her abuser wanted her dead. And that is extremely scary, to be in a position where I promise you an abuser will say things to you that is not meant for anyone else's ears. And it will literally just burrow itself in your mind where you constantly think about it. You become paranoid, and you know that you don't have any control over that other person. And really, in a sense, you don't even have control over yourself, because they are so overbearing, and they cause you to live in fear. And fear hinders us from having victory, unfortunately. And I think that maybe Mica found victory in how she left this earth, and maybe on her own terms, if that's what happened. But I still, of all the bright lights in the world, I wish that she was still here, because John Paul has dimmed so many lights in the world. His light is actually dark. It's gone. And so you have to wonder, why Mica? Why didn't he just end it? Why Mica? And that's hard to say, but it's honestly, I think she was a good person. So we're going to continue this story shortly, but in the meantime, we're going to take a quick break before we tell the rest of the story, and let you know that we have an Etsy store.
Yay!
For our merch. Yay! We've been asked about it, and we've worked on it, and we're going to introduce that to you today. And so with that being said, here it is. Okay. So with that being said, go check us out and see what you think. And we'd love to be out in public and see our merch.
As of right now, we don't have as much as we'd like on the store, but that is to come. We're just starting slow.
Yeah, we're starting small.
Yeah.
And then we'll build from there. But we'll keep you updated as our inventory grows.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. So to get back to the story, to say the least, this guy is so not full of the Holy Spirit. He's full of a spirit, but it is not holy, and it's not of God. So here's just a quick synopsis of what has been going on in the months leading up to Mica's death. On October 8th, 2023, Mica and JP officially filed for divorce according to court records. On February 8th, 2024, Mica was involuntarily hospitalized for 48 hours, according to a report from Myrtle Beach Police. February 10th, 2024, Mica was discharged from the hospital, and the staff informed her that John Paul reportedly picked up her purse and car keys while she was hospitalized. A police report said she returned to the Walmart neighborhood parking lot where she left her car, and it was gone. On February 21st, Mica reports to police that she believes John Paul fraudulently initiated her involuntary hospitalization and stole her car while she was receiving treatment. Mica told the officer she has known her husband since 2010 and that he groomed her while she worked for him at Solid Rock Church until they wed in 2017, the report stated. When the officer reached out to John Paul, Mica's estranged husband said she suffers from episodes on an annual basis around Christmas time. He alleged Mica spends large amounts of money when she shops, taking her prescriptions. Since the car was considered marital property and the two were still legally married, no charges were filed. March 11th, Horry County Police Department reports state Mica called the police after finding her tire slashed with a piece of metal. It was later identified as a tire deflation device available for purchase online. She named a potential suspect, but investigators said there wasn't enough evidence to prove the man was involved. That same day, Mica reported that the same suspect approached her at a gas station. She told him she did not want to speak with him. As she pulled out her phone to record, the suspect drove away, reports said. The man later showed up at the East Coast Honda dealership where she was getting her car fixed. Mechanics at the dealership told Mica a tracking device was found on her car, according to police reports. Mica reported she was trying to get a restraining order at the local magistrate's office because she was afraid for her life. The officer requested to meet her to get the GPS device, to which Mica agreed. While out in front of the magistrate's office with Miller, an officer saw a white Honda Accord slowly driving by, and Mica said it was the suspect driving her car. The vehicle then sped up and drove away, the report concluded. A magistrate's summons is issued for both Mica and John Paul Miller to appear for a bench trial on March 26, 2024, regarding a civil case, Mica Miller versus John Paul Miller, in which Mica seeks a restraining order. April 26, the day before Mica's death. The day before and of her death, deputies confirmed that John Paul and his alleged romantic partner, Susie Skinner, were not in North Carolina. Officials said he went to Charleston for a sporting event and stayed there overnight. The Robeson County Sheriff's Office said he drove back to Myrtle Beach the next day and was with people as he traveled to and from the event. Just a side note, Susie Skinner is the alleged side piece, and her husband, Christopher Skinner, who was bound to a wheelchair due to a car accident, drowned at a community pool in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina on September 6, 2021, when his wheelchair tipped into the pool and he became trapped underneath it. He was 41 years old. Pastor John Paul Miller, AP, he's such a good guy. He delivered the message at Skinner's funeral. So, I mean, he's just out there preaching about the Lord and saving souls. And yeah, he's just a good guy. And I guess that him and old Susie found some solace in one another. And supposedly they have a romantic relationship. So on April 27th, day of Mica's death, at 10:13 a.m., Miller is seen on her Ring camera leaving her residence on Margarita Drive in Myrtle Beach. At 11 a.m., Miller is seen on her Ring camera arriving at her residence. At 11:38 a.m., Miller seen on her Ring camera leaving her residence again. At 12:12 p.m., Miller seen on store surveillance walking into Dick's Pawn Shop, which is located at 1852 Mr. Joe White Avenue in Myrtle Beach. At 12:13 p.m., Miller is seen buying a weapon. At 12:34 p.m., Miller is seen leaving Dick's Pawn Shop after purchasing a weapon and ammunition. At 1:06 p.m., Miller's black Honda Accord is seen traveling on Highway 501 near 4 Mile Road in Conway. At 1:27 p.m., Miller's black Honda is seen driving at 41 Grocery and Grill, which is located on Highway 41 in Mullins. At 1:35 p.m., Miller is seen leaving the store after buying a drink and gas. I'm just going to say really quick here. Why is she buying an energy drink and putting gas in her car if she's going out there to unalive herself? That puzzles me. There's a couple things that puzzles me, and we'll get back to that later. But this
she has $500.
Yeah, and she had $500. So this puzzles me. At 2:54 p.m., the 911 call was made from an 843 area code number. Mica Miller asked if her phone could be located and then threatened suicide. Mica hung up the phone before further information could be gathered by dispatch. The telecommunicator tried to call Mica back multiple times and was unable to make contact. At 3:03 p.m., Robeson County deputies were dispatched to the Lumber River State Park for a welfare check and to attempt to locate Mica. At 3:05 p.m., contact was made with the Lumber River State Park superintendent. At 3:20 p.m., deputies requested a phone ping. At 3:31 p.m., deputies arrived at Lumber River State Park and began the search with the state park rangers. At 3:33 p.m., Robeson County Sheriff's Office Aviation Division Air 3 and SUAV drones were dispatched to Lumber River State Park. At 3:42 p.m., telecommunicators contacted Verizon to request an update location ping. At 3:50 p.m., detectives with Air 3 SUAV arrived at Lumber River State Park. While conducting an aerial search, detectives were approached by a person who said he found a bag while fishing with Mica's ID inside. Detectives took possession of the bag. Robeson County Sheriff's Office findings said this person heard crying and then a gunshot. The person stated he went further into the slough where he found the bag about 2 feet from the water's edge. At 4:23 p.m., an individual contacted Robeson County 911 and said he located a body in the water. He had been fishing on his kayak when he found the body. Searching detectives secured the area for an investigation. At 5:30 p.m., Chief of Detectives for RCSO arrives at the incident location. At 5:54 p.m., detectives and RCSO arrive at the incident location. The medical examiner was contacted and requested. CSI technician photographed the area of the investigation to include the vehicle belonging to Mica Miller. Items of the evidence were collected from her car in the incident location. Investigators located a big six-saw gun case in the passenger seat of the vehicle and a box of ammunition in the center console of the vehicle. Investigators also found a receipt for the handgun from a pawn shop and a receipt from a convenience store in the vehicle. Both receipts were dated for the same day of Mica's death. The serial number on the weapon found in the water at the crime scene matched the gun in the box that was found in Miller's Honda Accord. 7:11 p.m. The firearm is located in the water. This is the latest update from the police. On May 13th, Robeson County Sheriff's Office released a statement that they requested assistance from the United States Attorney's Office and the Federal Bureau of Investigations in South Carolina in the Mica Miller investigation case. The full statement reads, the Robeson County Sheriff's Office has been in contact with the United States Attorney's Office and Federal Bureau of Investigations in South Carolina since the early stages of the Mica Miller investigation. Based on the information gathered during the investigation and jurisdiction reasons, the Sheriff's Office has requested the assistance of both agencies. No other information will be released at this time. Anyone with information pertaining to the Mica Miller investigation in South Carolina is asked to contact the Columbia, South Carolina FBI office at 803-551-4200. So take that number down, guys. If anyone knows anything on this case, it's very pertinent. Every tidbit of information that anyone knows, just to bring the family and friends some solace in her, in this situation, which really there's not going to be a lot of peace, but they just want to know what happened to their daughter or to their sister.
Now, there is one thing. Mica's parents asked if there was a tracking device on her car when they arrived at the scene, and they said they never checked.
They never checked.
So, I mean, there's so many reports of things that were happening to her, and I feel like in their mind, it was a suicide, but you kind of need to dig a little further. And yeah, they dropped the ball.
Well, they didn't check for gunshot residue on her hands either, which would be so important. And, John Paul Miller, he took a hold and he got her cremated immediately, even blackmailed the family into signing off on that just for them to be able to see her body.
I did hear that there is an issue with the funeral home. Mm-hmm. They do cremate very fast, even if it's not requested. So I'm not sure if he requested that or if they just did it because they're known for doing that.
Well, from what I'm hearing, and again, there's a lot of rumors.
Yeah, it's a lot.
He told the family they needed to sign off on it in order to get it done, but he would, if they didn't sign it, he would not let them see her body.
But he may have known this about the funeral home.
Yes, I mean he's in the community quite a bit. I'm sure he does a lot of funerals, so I'm sure he's privy to a lot of things. Especially if it's nefarious.
Yeah, he may have chosen that funeral home on purpose.
So, which is sad. The family should never be blackmailed. And no one should ever be blackmailed. But in a situation like this, just shows how ugly this person is.
Well, and in my opinion, I mean, he's innocent until proven guilty. But if he did not have a personal hand in that, he did have. I mean, he pushed her to that point.
Absolutely.
You know, he
Absolutely,
needs to
without
be
a
held
doubt.
accountable
Yes.
here and now for pushing her to that point, or his new romance could be in trouble, just like Mica. I mean, he can't be trusted with anyone at this point. And he can say, well, I mean, I got away with it the first time. I'm just going to push some more.
Well, least case would be
wrongful death.
Voluntary manslaughter, because he voluntarily tortured her. So it should be voluntary manslaughter.
He pushed her to that point.
Just like the Michelle Carter case.
Exactly.
I mean, she was prosecuted for all of the text messaging that she sent Conrad, and that was almost like they set her as an example that we have to be held accountable. And that was through text messaging and phone calls. We have to be held accountable.
And she was a young girl. You're looking at a grown man who was out to do this to people because he's the pastor of a church telling people how to live their lives.
Yeah.
So that's a huge issue.
Yeah, because he's counseling married couples, even singles.
Absolutely.
He's part of the youth group. Would you want this man speaking to your youth?
No.
To your son or your daughter?
Not just that, is he found her in the youth group.
Yes.
So I would be worried about my daughter in the youth group anyway.
Yeah, and grooming, there's a lot of grooming that goes on. And the thing is, these people are patient. It may take 7-8 years, but they're willing to groom for that long to get what they want.
And he's already got history of doing it.
Yes.
So what's to stop him again?
To continue.
He needs to be held responsible for everything he's done to her.
Absolutely.
In one way or another.
And believe you me, he's going to be judged one day for his actions.
Well, I mean here and now first.
But right now here on earth, we need to protect congregations, Christians, non-Christians. People just need to be protected from this man. He was picking up homeless people, to sexually traffic. He prostitutes and things like that. But this man is just very, very sick. And when you can be as quote unquote, as normal as anyone else, but when you're in a relationship with someone who brings that in, you eventually have to get sick with them to stay with them. And he did a lot of threatening to her, and she, my opinion, and then again, this is just my opinion. I've been in a very abusive relationship where a church was involved. So some of this triggered me with some memories, is that they will use God against you. They will point you out as you're an ungodly person and you're going to burn in hell. You're demon possessed. I'm going to go before the congregation and tell people whatever you did. And you live in this humiliation ritual with these people, and you're scared. You just become so fearful to the point that you think there's no way that society's ever going to accept me again. And obviously she loved to praise and worship. And so in her mind, he could just have ruined all of that for her. And when you're living in that sick situation, you can't see past it. You can't see past him. You can't see the light. You don't have faith in your friends or your family because he stripped you of all of that. And you just think you're unlovable.
And I think she was figuring those things out. And I think that's why he was trying to control her more and scare her more. And
because she had plans on going to Africa, and doing some ministry there, and so she had plans, guys, and it wasn't beautiful things.
And I have to say, I feel like she was strong because she figured those things out and she got out of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he went after her so young.
Oh yeah,
so he could control her
and
turn it, because if she had been able to become older when she got with him, I think it would have been harder for him to manipulate her and tell her and control her and tell her what to do.
Yeah.
So,
well, I absolutely think she was a strong young lady. They can suck you back in. That's what a narcissist does.
Of course. But I think she was getting there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because she finally had it.
She left him. She divorced him. But that's when it gets worse, right?
Yeah,
that's when you leave them.
They do say this.
They're losing their power.
Relationship, the most dangerous time when you're leaving an abusive relationship, the most dangerous time is after you've left. Probably the first 6 months to the first year is the most dangerous because they're still trying to warrant their control over you, and it can make them very angry and violent because you're not responding to their toxic poison anymore. And a narcissist does not like that. They will try anything to ruin your reputation, lies, truth, it doesn't matter. They don't have a moral compass. They're just there to destroy because they didn't get their way. And I think that's what Mr. J.P. Miller does, and I think that's why something needs to occur with this man. He needs to pay refuge to the damage that he's done. And I assure you that he just didn't cause that damage to Mica and her family. There's other victims
And
out
there
there.
will be in the future.
And there will be in the future. That's a fact.
Yeah.
So, guys, if you or someone you love are having any type of suicidal ideations, please dial 988. There's also a GoFundMe page called Justice for Mica. The latest I checked, they had collected $21,364 of $50,000. This was set up by Mica's friends and family, not by John Paul Miller. So if you feel led, please donate. And we'll put all that information in our description box as well. So until our next episode, guys.
Remember to hit that like button at the bottom of the screen and subscribe for true crime content every week, which is absolutely free. And free is awesome.
Yes.
Also, share this with your friends. Get Mica's face and name out there for everyone to see what an amazing person she was and remember her for that.
And also, if there's anyone else out there that's going through it, maybe she can be a beacon in the night to lead them to safety.
So most importantly, guys, see the good and stay imperfectly perfect. Bye, guys.
Bye.